Hello, I'm the Irish guy. Alright, so it is Champions League season again. The quarterfinals are starting tonight, and are you excited? To me, this is the last ever proper Champions League season, because in the new freakish, weird league format next season, I mean, it could be great, or it could be a steaming pile of complicated squirrel vomit. It could be so dreadful. So drink it in, appreciate the last ever normal Champions League campaign, with the final being held in Wembley again. You know what's really strange though? The last time the Champions League final was held at Wembley, yeah, in that season, Real Madrid played against Man City, Arsenal played against Bayern Munich, and PSG played against Barcelona. No Atletico versus Borussia Dortmund though. Nah, Atletico were instead too busy wasting their time in the Europa League. But still, that's kind of weird, right? Anyway, here are my predictions. Oh, but guys, before we start, hit that subscribe button, nearly at 200k. Do you see how close it is to 200,000 subscribers? If you want to be part of this fantastic journey, then hit that button, you absolute legends. Right, let's go. PSG versus Barcelona. Lads, every year when the Champions League path is laid out, I am always drooling over the potential matchups for the final. I remember back in 2007, the semi-finals were mapped out. Manchester United versus AC Milan and Chelsea versus Liverpool. Almost every possible matchup for the final would have been incredible. You could have Milan versus Liverpool, a rematch of the greatest Champions League final of all time just 2 years later. Or you could have Manchester United versus Chelsea in a Champions League final just 4 days after both clubs played out an FA Cup final at Wembley. I mean, chuck in their meeting in the Premier League too, and lads, Chelsea would have played against Manchester United 3 times in 2 weeks. Jose Mourinho versus Sir Alex Ferguson in a Champions League final. That would have been intense. But also, it could have been Liverpool versus Manchester United in a Champions League final. That is also a truly scary thought. I don't know if we ever will get that fierce, ugly rivalry in the biggest club game in the world, but we nearly had it in 2007, and that would have been wow. And similarly, all I need is for Barcelona to get through their side of the draw and into the final, and then, I mean, whoever they play in the final, it's guaranteed to be juicy. I mean, they could play Arsenal. A repeat of 2006 Champions League final in Paris. This would be Mikel Arteta facing off against the club he started his career with. That would be tasty to watch. As would Barcelona versus Manchester City. I'm sorry, but Pep Guardiola trying to win the Champions League against the club of his heart. This is somebody who beat Manchester United in 2 different Champions League finals. One of them at Wembley. So to now see him on the side of a Manchester club trying to beat Barca at Wembley, it would be so weird to watch. For Pep, it would be such an uncomfortable position to be put in. It would have been asked to slip a cyanide pill into your mum's chocolate brownie at Starbucks. Barcelona versus Bayern Munich would also be delicious, considering this would be Barcelona's absolute complete revenge mission against a club who embarrassingly beat them 8-2 just 4 years ago. What better way to erase that terrible night than by beating the Germans in an actual Champions League final? And don't forget, Bayern humbled Barca in 2013 too, smashing them up 7-0 in aggregate in the semi-finals. Barca want revenge. And then finally, the last possible matchup would be having the first ever El Clasico in a Champions League final. Real Madrid versus Barcelona at Wembley. Again, we came mighty close to that being breathed into existence back in 2013. Nah, they just had to lose to both German teams. I need Barcelona to somehow sneak their way into the final this year. I mean, just years after being forced to dump Lionel Messi, after being in such a financial hellhole, to be able to crawl the way back to a Champions League final. I mean, for Xavi, the symmetry is glorious. His final ever match as a Barcelona player was winning a Champions League final in 2015. So for his final ever match as Barcelona manager to be the same, it would be monumental. Look, this is PSG versus Barcelona. I mean, weirdly, Luis Enrique is a Barca mini legend, winning the treble with them back in 2015. But let's be real, he ain't nothing special as a coach. I know. He's only lost 1 game in the French league this season, but they were absolute mouse poo in the Champions League group stage, only sneaking through after absolutely robbing Newcastle with an undeserved last-minute penalty. If there was any justice, they would have finished bottom of that Champions League group. They were largely dreadful. I mean, forget the nonsense in the media. Barca under Xavi have become a solid team. Yes, they were too open earlier in the season, and there were nonsense results like conceding 4 at home to Girona, 5 at home to Villarreal, 3 at home to Granada. But lads, I mean, there's been 5 La Liga clean sheets in a row, so I can see a controlled, domineering performance in Paris. 1-0, João Felix with the winner, before handily beating them 2-0 at the new camp. Trust me lads, Xavi is going to absolutely school his former manager, and this is going to be a comfortable win. They are going to defeat PSG without even conceding a single goal, and lads, if PSG do reach the semi-finals this season, then I will smear 10 fried eggs in my hair. Arsenal versus Bayern Munich. I don't know why, but Bayern Munich have tried to be so English this season. Look at all the English players that Thomas Tuchel has tried to sign this season. Harry Kane and Eric Dyer, yes, but also Kyle Walker, Kieran Trippier, Declan Rice, Conor Gallagher, Trevoh Chalobah, Calvin Phillips, Fikayo Tomori, and Jordan Henderson were all linked with Bayern this season. Tuchel's shopping list has been so quintessentially English that I bet for Christmas he asked for an Only Fools box set and wonky teeth. After living in London for what, 2 years? He probably now demands that his German butler serve him a crumpet for brunch. It was such a weirdly English shopping list, and it hasn't gotten them anywhere because, lads, not only are they embarrassingly 16 points off the title race, but they're also in serious danger of finishing behind Stuttgart 2. You know, a team who were very nearly relegated last year. The only reason they're even in the Bundesliga this season is because they won their relegation playoff against Hamburg in June. Lads, the last time Bayern finished third in the league was 2011, finishing behind Borussia Dortmund, and weirdly, Bayer Leverkusen? Yeah, I mean, Bayern would just very quickly nick their coach Jupp Heynckes and got him to win a treble at Bayern instead. Although, just looking at the Leverkusen team again from 2011, it gets me thinking, why isn't Michael Ballack a manager? A supremely gifted, all-conquering footballer, an absolute leader as a player for Germany, Chelsea, Bayern Munich, has played in the World Cup final, multiple Champions League finals. It makes more sense for Michael Ballack to have been the man to lead Leverkusen to the first ever Bundesliga title, right? More so than Alonso. To me, Michael Ballack is like John Terry. I'm shocked how they're not managers, and yet a wet ball of Moosey like Gary O'Neill is. Well, lads, I get why Arsenal are nervous about playing Bayern Munich. The last time these two met, the Germans traumatized the Gunners so much, they lost a two-legged last 16 match by 10 goals to 2. It was humiliating. That was Arsene Wenger's worst moment as a coach. Yet AFTV zombie standing outside the Emirates, pretty much comparing him to a dehydrated potato. Some Gunners fans would legitimately have probably chewed on a dead rat for an hour if it guaranteed the Wenger sack. So I get why Arsenal fans are scared, but you really shouldn't be. Bayern under Tuchel since December have been appalling. They have lost 6 league matches this season, conceding 5 at Eintracht Frankfurt, losing 3 to both VfL Bochum and Heidenheim. That is unacceptable. They were dumped out of the German Pokal Cup by Saarbrücken. This is the biggest mess of a job Tuchel has made in his entire career. This is awful. It is grim. His stock has taken such a huge knock. I genuinely believe that his next job will be something pitiful like West Ham. This Arsenal team are going to destroy them in the first leg. I mean, Bayern won here by 4 goals in 2017. This time it's going to be the reverse. I think Mikel Arteta's boys are going to stomp all over Bayern as if their defense was made of butter. 4 goals to 0. This is going to be one of the greatest nights in the history of the Emirates Stadium. It is going to be an absolute massacre. You're going to have KSI screeching in his box as he squirts that sugary awful prime in his eyes. But here's the weird part though. I reckon we're going to see the glimpses of the old Arsenal in the second leg. Lads, I remember when Arsenal would get battered in the first leg of a Champions League knockout match only to preserve some dignity in the second leg when the pressure was off. Like in 2012, they lose 4-0 to AC Milan, the tie is dead, so then they catch the Italians off guard and beat them 3-0 in London. Almost pulling off the miracle comeback. Yeah, similar thing here. I reckon Bayern are going to be in the absolute mud. A complete European embarrassment after getting humiliated in London. So in the second leg, yeah, they'll regroup. Harry Kane will bag in a couple of goals, and they'll win 3-0 in Germany against a tired and distracted Arsenal, who'll be resting fresh legs for the league. Because unlike Bayern, they're actually in a title race. Honestly, it'll weird. I mean, you'll probably see El Neni on the pitch. Yeah, the vampire of the Arsenal squad. Someone who has mostly been hibernating in an underground dungeon all season long. I mean, I don't know what he's doing. Reading X-Men magazines and chewing on children's souls? I have no clue. But yeah, even he'll probably be getting a run out in the second leg. But overall, Arsenal will be in the Champions League semi-finals. And lads, if they are not, then I will compose a love song to Declan Rice. Atletico Madrid versus Borussia Dortmund. Look, this is possibly the perfect Champions League quarterfinal matchup because Atletico Madrid and Borussia Dortmund were those two plucky underdog teams who, over the last decade, should really have been nowhere near Champions League finals, but they were. Between 2013 and 2016, both these teams were a massive problem to the elite. I mean, remember when Robert Lewandowski scored 4 goals in 1 match against Real Madrid? Just 2 years after an ash cloud ruined his move to Blackburn Rovers? That was weird. Lads, both Dortmund and Atletico only lost their Champions League finals by conceding a goal in the final minute. Can you imagine how football would have changed if both Jurgen Klopp and Diego Simeone had won the Champions League with these clubs? I mean, Klopp would have been immediately whisked out of Germany in 2013. No questions asked. Real Madrid would have made him the successor to Jose Mourinho. And Simeone Yeah, if Atletico had beaten Real Madrid in the 2014 Champions League final, would Manchester United have moved heaven and earth to hire him instead of Louis van Gaal? Maybe? But lads, neither team are anywhere near as good as what they were 10 years ago. Together, these two Champions League quarter-finalists have lost a combined 19 games this season. Neither one have a meerkat's eyebrow of lifting the Champions League trophy in May. I mean, if either one do, then I will get a tattoo of the winning manager on my belly button. Christ, can you imagine if it's Erden Churchick? He looks like a potato with eyes. It would also be really weird for a failed West Ham assistant coach to become a Champions League winning boss. I mean, he's probably somebody who used to bunk off work to eat donuts with Dimitri Payet and McDonald's car park. There's not really much between these teams, but I'll go for Memphis Depay to score the winner in a tight first leg, 2-1 to Atletico in Spain, before Dortmund will huff and puff in the second leg, miss a whole heap of chances, or someone like Antoine Griezmann belts in a wonder goal in the final 10 minutes. 1-0 win. 3-1 on aggregate, Atletico into a tasty all-Spanish semi-final with Barcelona. Not bad for a team who last season finished bottom of a laughably easy Champions League group behind Porto, Club Brugge and Leverkusen. Yikes. Real Madrid versus Man City. I remember when Man City played Real Madrid in just their second ever Champions League season, and it looked weird. I mean, they went 2-1 up at the Bernabeu with 10 minutes left and still lost the match. But it was weird. Lads, I'm someone who grew up watching City. When they had Sunji High at left back, Stuart Pearce as their bedraggled, grizzly coach, who looked like if you left a teddy bear out in the rain for a month, they were just an ugly misfit outfit who couldn't score a goal at home for 6 months. I remember them losing 8-1 to Middlesbrough. So to suddenly see them at the Bernabeu, it was a bit like seeing your awkward fat nerd of a cousin now on a date with Britney Spears. Well lads, this is becoming such a regular occurrence now. This is the club's 4th meeting with Real in the last 5 seasons. City have scored 4 goals against Real in the last 2 visits to the Etihad. Carlo Ancelotti doesn't really have a clue how to defend against City. I think that was obvious when he took Everton there and got slapped up 5-0 with ease. He's always been scared of Man City. Even back to when Wayne Bruce refused to shake John Terry's hand. Yeah, Chelsea conceded 4 goals at home that day. Ancelotti's only hope is just to overpower City with goals, but no. Look, I know Real are good. I actually think City win this quarterfinal with ease. I think Real take an early lead at the Bernabeu. Someone like Bellingham nodding in an early goal. But again, City will get their foot on the ball, dominate possession, and carve them down with demoralizing second half goals from Phil Foden and Erling Haaland. The Champions League semi-finals are going to be delicious. An all English, all Spanish semi-final. Arsenal versus Man City and then Barcelona versus Atletico. It's going to be tense beyond belief. So mouth-watering. Anyway, that's the video. Let me know what do you think. Let me know in the comments below what do you think is going to happen. Let me know what are your predictions. Let me know. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give a like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I'll talk to you in a while.